I'm Cathy Magee. I'm the Chief Executive of Dyslexia Scotland. Welcome to this very special DyslexiFest event about the forthcoming dyslexia and mental health documentary. You are all really privileged to be the first audience to view clips from this documentary. So it's a really exciting online premiere. Even some of the people being interviewed haven't seen it, so you really are privileged. You'll be viewing clips from the documentary and you'll hear from those who were interviewed in the film, so we're really pleased to have them here as well. Trevor Thomson has been working on this for a few years, and from what we've seen so far, because a few of us at Dyslexia Scotland have actually seen the first cut, we know it will be a powerful and moving documentary. I'm delighted to be chairing the panel tonight, and we're very lucky to have those panel members here. Dyslexia Scotland, after the event, will send on useful links to you all, and some ideas of where to go for further information and for help. And Trevor will say a bit at the end about the next steps for the documentary. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Trevor, who's the director of Blue Star Streaming and the mastermind behind this important documentary. Trevor, please can you introduce yourself and then ask Amanda, Keith, Pennie and Jennifer to introduce themselves. And then thanks, Trevor. I'll hand over to you for now and then back to me.
Thanks, Cathy. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Trevor Thomson. I'm the director producer of the short film that we're making, in the process of making. It's about dyslexia and mental health. The big part of it being dyslexic. I'm dyslexic. I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 30, when I was at university. So I went through the first part of my life not knowing. So it's kind of touches on these points what I've went through when I found out about dyslexia and all the kind of journeys I've been through with dyslexia, like all of us have been through, and meeting and joining and starting to speak about being dyslexic and scared to speak about it, and meeting people, wonderful people at Dyslexia Scotland, and then finding out there's people helping us and want to do stuff to help us, with Pennie and Amanda we'll introduce you to in a bit. So and then meeting all the lovely people who are dyslexic. I love meeting and speaking to people who are dyslexic and sharing our stories and just talking about it. I think it helps massively, just talking about it to other dyslexics. It's helped me. So yeah, so I think I've got to introduce people. So I'll get someone to go first. I'm just going to read off the the notes then. So the first person is Amanda Kirby.
Hi, everybody. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for inviting me along. And I feel very privileged to be part of the documentary and being part of your world as well. I'm a professor in neurodiversity, neurodevelopmental conditions, come from a really neurodivergent family, got children and grandchildren who've got dyslexia and other neurodivergent traits, and lived in this world for the last, well, forever really, I suppose. Really keen. I'm a doctor and worked in mental health as well, and ran a clinical service for a long time. And I really believe that understanding about dyslexia and mental health is really important. And genuinely, when we support people and see their strengths, then we can see everything they are. And so this is a crucial, I think that what you've achieved and what you produced, hopefully, because I haven't seen it yet, but it's really exciting. It's going to make a difference in lots of people's lives. So thank you for inviting me this evening and being a part of this.
Cool. Thanks, Amanda. So next up is Keith to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Keith. I'm obviously dyslexic. I got my confirmation actually quite young in life. I was about 10 or 11. I will maybe age myself, but that was in the early to mid 80s. So I went through school having no help. there was no help available at the time, really, within schools. I knew I was dyslexic, and I'd maybe say, yeah, I'm dyslexic, but I didn't really understand what it meant, and I just thought, I'll get on with it. And it wasn't until sort of a few years ago that I found out there was actually help available if you just asked for it. So that's what I did, and I'm happy to be part of this documentary. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. Next up is Pennie Aston. Pennie.
Sorry about that. Boris Johnson here, unmuted. Nice to see everyone. And thanks, Trevor, everyone, for putting all this together. It is nectar to me, and to hear so many people are interested. We kind of work in the background in a way, sort of picking up the pieces. I set up an organisation and developed the Dyslexia Aware Counselling approach. I'm a psychotherapist. Some 17 years ago now, when I was a little baby like Trev at 50. And suddenly I realized I didn't have a brain tumor, I was actually dyslexic. And hello, my husband is dyspraxic, and my daughter, there's Asperger's there, and there's dyspraxia, dyslexia, the whole, we're a real sort of mongrel family of it. More than anything, though, at the time, I really wanted someone that I could talk to who would understand what it felt like to have lived a large portion of my life, not really understanding who I was or what I needed. And there was nothing out there. So I can align myself with Keith with that, but it's a moment of shock, horror, isolation, and then delight when you find there are people like everyone here tonight, and the thousands of people that we've come across over the last 17 years or so. So I'm absolutely privileged to be here and really looking forward to seeing it, Trevor, and anything else that we GroOops Dyslexia Aware Counselling can help everyone with.
Thanks, Pennie, that's amazing. Okay, now next up is Jennifer Ewan, and Jennifer, I'll just say Jennifer's on a narrowboat, so internet connection, all that is amazing. So we'll see that in a bit of the clips of the film, actually. So over to Jennifer.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Ewan, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a musician, and I play in my band, Jennifer Ewan Band, and I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was about 7, so I'm pretty lucky to have been diagnosed nice and early on, but I guess I still really struggled at school. My teachers didn't actually believe in dyslexia, so I was bullied by teachers and pupils, so it was a hard childhood, but things have got better, and I'm now an ambassador for Dyslexia Scotland, which is a real honour and means a lot to me, and I'm very happy to be in this documentary. Can't wait to see it.
Brilliant.
The
signal was
the anticipation going. Yeah, sorry, Trevor.
No, that's us all, and everybody who introduced himself there is in the documentary. The clips are in tonight. There's a couple of other people in the documentary. Stephen Naismith, I don't think I put him in this clip actually, and there's going to be some other people. One of the people, maybe some other people. We're not fully finished yet, so we'll see. But yeah, everybody's in it tonight, so it's exciting for everybody to see it first. The first ever screening. What I'll say about this, actually, what I was going to say is, if anybody, young people watching this, older people as well. I'm 50 on Saturday, so I'm getting older. But what I'm going to say is, it is about mental health. So there could be some triggering moments. There's nothing too heavy in it at all. There is going to be heavy, big stuff in this for the final documentary. There's some big moments, but there's nothing too triggering in this. But we will have a chat after the documentary. You can get signposted to Dyslexia Scotland. There will be an email going out after this, and you can speak to anybody if you want to. Okay, is that okay saying that, Cathy? I think I've covered that there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it is quite emotional. you know, it's an emotional topic. That's why we're all so engaged with it. I think, I mean, making this documentary or starting it, I didn't realize how big mental health is for dyslexias, to be honest. It's been a journey doing the documentary over the last couple of years. So yeah, it's a big topic. I'll just hand back over to Cathy, I think. Is it Cathy, over to you?
Yeah, Trevor, so really, I think thank you very much for the introductions, everyone, and thank you so much for being part of the documentary and for being here tonight. I think really we want to, Trevor, you've told us a little bit about your dyslexia, but it'd be really good to hear what your motivation was for making the documentary. And then we'll be asking you to play, Trevor is going to play some clips, I think 11 minutes of the documentary, and then we'll be asking the panel members some questions. So Trevor, I'll hand back to you and just ask you if you can say a little bit about what made you want to make the documentary. I know this has been such a big part of your life for the last few years, and it was a huge wish of yours, wasn't it, to make this documentary?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so like all dyslexics, when I get a bit nervous, I forget what I'm talking about. So I've written some lines down for myself here. So, so first off, I felt that a lot of material and stuff I looked at with dyslexics online wasn't fully representing dyslexic people properly. I thought we skirted on some areas on stuff, and it's kind of stereotypical stuff I was seeing quite a lot. I wasn't really seeing the hard-hitting edge that I was finding when I was interviewing people through starting to work with Dyslexia Scotland, and I volunteered as a media ambassador at the beginning, and I would go to different events and interview the different dyslexic people, and what I was hearing from them when people relaxed was much more hard-hitting than a lot of the YouTube videos that I was watching, and any of the documentaries were on the BBC or anything like that were a little bit more dumbed down, and it's like, oh, you're dyslexic, but you know, it's not that hard, or you know, people did seem to be playing it down a bit. So I was thinking, I just want to get a little bit more real and try and get people to open up and speak about dyslexia. What I found was through filming people, there was commonality that came up time and time again. You know, standing up and reading in class, you know, scared to go for promotions. There's just loads of commonality that just popped out when you videoed someone what didn't normally come out in normal day-to-day life. So that really inspired me to start making the documentaries on it. We made the first one, Dyslexia, Educate Me, and it was all about the education system. And basically what I said to Cathy and that, this is going to take a long time to do and some money to fund. So I was wanting to make an hour documentary, but I thought it's too ambitious to do that off the bat. So I've basically chunked it into 4 series. So the first one's Dyslexia, Educate Me. This one's Dyslexia, Mental Health. The third one's going to be, it's a trilogy already, or quadruple, or whatever you call it in this 4. The third one's going to be Dyslexia and the Workplace. The fourth one was going to be Dyslexia and Superpowers, but I'm not quite digging the superpower word anymore through my journey, so I'm not sure what the third one's going to be. Dyslexia and our stuff, you know. So it's been a journey with all of that as well. So we're on film 2 really. What else did I stop rambling? What else did I put down? Oh yeah, everybody asks me through my journey since I've been 30. I've been looking at dyslexia for 20 years now. Is what's it like to be dyslexic? So I make films, I do that stuff. So that's what I'm trying to answer that question. What is it like to be dyslexic? You know, so very hard to answer. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff, that's the inspiration where I came out. And when I made the first documentary, actually, I didn't think it would be not that well received, but actually with Dyslexia put it out, we went to different cities, and then when I went to a couple of showings of it and spoke to some people and kids and parents, it was really moving, the stuff people were saying, you know. And being dyslexic, I got it instantly, you know. So shared experience, shared knowledge and understanding is what's coming out of these, you know. And then you get to meet all these amazing people and speak to them and ask them their opinions on it as well. So that's really why I'm doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trevor. And I should have said earlier, you also feature in the film yourself.
I also feature, yeah.
A bit like Hitchcock, I think. You appear in your own.
I wish. Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks, Cathy. Someone asked me about that the other day, and sometimes you can be, you know, a bit conflicted being in a documentary when you're actually directing it. And the reason I'm in these is what I've been saying to a couple of people last week about it is, I'm in it because this is hard to do, and I'm going to do it myself as well and be in it. I can't ask other people to open up their life and talk about the experiences if I'm not prepared to do it myself. That is it, really. You know.
That's really important, and thank you so much, Trevor. And I'm sure that came out when you were filming and speaking to people yourself.
Yeah.
So I think we probably held people in suspense for quite long enough. If you wouldn't mind, Trevor, I think it'd be great at this stage if you could show the clip, and then we'll go on to ask the panel members some questions.
There are higher rates of anxiety and depression associated with dyslexia, higher than you would get in the general population. And why is that? Why do we sort of see that pattern of dyslexia, anxiety and depression?
Dyslexic people are more prone to mental health issues. I think that the world that they grow up in, are educated in, and work in exacerbates feelings that they have of not quite fitting in with the norm.
They would like to bring me up in front of the class and get me to read, and he'd say things like, "Someone tell this stupid girl how to say such and such." Yep, just that old problem of feeling stupid a lot of the time and feeling like you don't fit in and don't belong and having to kind of hide yourself all the time. Low self-worth. That's what I got out of school rather than useful education. I really got low self-esteem out of that situation. And I think just because it happens at a young age, it's very informing to the rest of your life. It's going to make an impact.
You learn from a very early age not to put your head above the parapet. So you stopped asking questions in class. You just got on with it yourself. You have intelligence there, but because of the way intelligence is measured in society with reading, writing and things like that, and as you have a problem with that, then even today you can be held back. On a daily basis, I still have a struggle with my mental health. Certain situations, I can actually feel myself going back to that 5-year-old child in primary one. You're thick, you're stupid, you've got to try harder.
We leave school, we go to college or the workplace. I've got a new glossary of terms I've got to understand. I've got new expectations of me. So my dyslexia challenges are getting bigger, they're not getting smaller, and that increases our chances of anxiety and depression. And then we get into a cycle. I'm anxious because it's going to happen, it happened, I'm going to become more anxious. And you become a belief that that's always the way it's going to be. And then you've got the history of anxiety and depression as that's who you are, that's part of who you are. And it becomes intrinsically wrapped around you like a cloak. And you get used to that is your being. And sometimes we have to rewrite or strike out some of our life sentences and start again and rewrite it. And I think there is always the opportunity to do so.
Okay, Thank you for watching that. Thank you for everybody being in that. Hope you like it. That's just a small snippet, really. It's going to be much longer. There's so much good stuff in it. I can feel the hairs on my neck tingling now. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, there we go.
Thank you so much, Trevor, for you know, having the courage to show your documentary live tonight, and thank you so much, Amanda, Penny, Jenny, and Keith, for your very powerful inputs there. Absolutely, yeah, such a personal thing to be speaking about, particularly for Jen and Keith. We've got a few questions here, so if it's okay, I'm going to, and I think there's some comments coming through. Great to hear people's comments about the film so far. I'm sure Trevor will be absolutely delighted to hear your views. But I've got a couple of questions, one for Jennifer and Keith. So what was it like? Start with Jennifer. What was it like being filmed for the documentary, and did it bring out anything unexpected for you?
Well, I knew I really wanted to do it, and it means a lot to me. I like the idea that I might be able to help other young people or children at school who might be going through something similar. But yeah, the experience was really good. It was great working with Trevor. He's so easy to talk to. He puts you at ease, and he's obviously been through a lot of hard stuff with dyslexia too. So it was really like having a nice one-to-one chat with Trevor. And yeah, and I think I was surprised by how emotional it made me. I thought I'd got over all my from the past, but there's still like sadness there when you talk about these really dark things from your past. Yeah, it's hard. It was really hard as well, but kind of like a therapy session too. It was an amazing experience. I felt like I was talking through my whole life story, and it was, yeah, kind of therapeutic. I liked it, as hard as it was.
Well done for putting yourself forward, Jennifer, and yeah, really very brave of you, and thank you for sharing, because it will help other people, absolutely. Keith, question is similar for you, is why did you agree to being involved in talking about something that's so personal? And I know you touched on lots of personal things in the clip we saw there, and in other parts of the interview.
Yeah, well, I'm actually a pupil support assistant in education. I work in a secondary school. So one of the reasons is that I wanted to do this was to maybe help some of the children that I am working with, as I try to do on a daily basis. Because speaking to these young people, they still go through what we went through with self-esteem and things like that. Education has changed to some degree. They don't actually threaten to use physical violence because you can't spell. Teachers generally will not call you stupid, thick, dumb, anything like that now. We do have support for learning departments there to try and help. I mean, coming back to, you know, the sort of anxiety and things I was talking about there, I mean, I actually get moved school just, I was supposed to start in August and I didn't start until November because my anxiety levels just peaked. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my thread again. This dyslexia kicking in, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I want to do it is that, you know, maybe a young person watching this can see there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's a way through it. Yeah, so
Keith, I really applaud your motivation there, that you want to help other people, and I think someone's put in the chat that you will be an awesome PSA. I think what a fantastic person and role model to be doing that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I've got a question. Moving on to Amanda. Amanda, you talk about the fact, and this isn't in the clip we've seen earlier, but it's a clip I saw on Wednesday. You talk about the fact that, well, you do actually talk about this as well in this clip, that schools are designed more for the average child, rather than for children perhaps with spiky profiles who may excel in some things but not do so well in some of the core skills such as reading and writing. Can you tell us a bit more about what can or does happen to these children, and how this approach might affect their mental health?
Yeah, I think that when you're moving through school and people's expectations are you're going to be able to read and write and spell, and that's the expectation, because generally the way education is set up is for efficiency. It's for managing groups of individuals. We haven't changed that much since the Industrial Revolution, in the sense of putting 30 children in a class and teaching them in groups, because we need to do that. And if you fall out, and that's like the bell curve, and if you're in the middle of the bell curve, you do okay in education. So you can read, write and spell, and you can walk and talk, you're going to do okay. If you don't, and you're at the edges, children are clever. They're all clever, and they recognize at a very young age when other people are doing things and it seems to be what everybody's expecting of them and you're not. They recognize very young age that they are different from the others around you, and that doesn't need to be words. That can be actions, it can be looks, it can be the way that somebody approaches you. You know, so when we go, kids don't notice, children notice. They notice and they feel it. And the first thing they start to feel is that sense of difference, that sense of not being able to participate in the same way and have the opportunities. And when you've got lots of skills, you know, Jen that was talking about her skills, she's got, you know, everybody's got some skills and talents, but if you haven't got the opportunity to show them off, and actually we all want to show off our skills in some way, and if that's constrained, then in the end, you either shout out or you shout in. And that's what's happening. You either internalize it and you suppress your feelings and you become invisible to everybody as much as you possibly can, or you shout loud and you make sure that everybody knows, and you hope that people will notice you then. And you either do it one way or the other. And once you start doing that, you do get into that spiral, and you believe it then. You believe the rhetoric, you believe that maybe I'm not so good. And actually it's we are not so good, because we're not allowing those kids to show, children and young people to show what they can do. And I've never found a child that isn't capable of having some skills and talents in some area. Every child's got something they can contribute. And I think it's our responsibility to allow that to happen. Because otherwise we see the stories we hear. We hear from the children, we hear from the young people. I hear it from my kids. You know, I've got children and grandchildren going through the education system, and I want the same for them. I want a future where they can show their talents and skills. And they're funny. Often what they want to show you is funny, and it's amusing, and it's engaging, and it's heartwarming, but it's demoralizing if you can't show those things, those talents that children have got.
Absolutely, Amanda, thank you. And I know you go on later in the film to talk about some of the ways in which other people can help and make sure that that doesn't happen. As you say, it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that children are supported and their skills are brought out. Thank you for that, Amanda. Pennie, I'd like to ask you, in the full documentary, you say that neurodiverse people are not necessarily more prone to poor mental health, but that the world in which we live and the perception of dyslexia can lead to mental health difficulties. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah. It's not so much that someone is neurodiverse dyslexic, it's the way they're treated. because they are neurodiverse dyslexic. So as we saw in the clip, that if you are constantly reminded of your deficits, that's all you're going to think you're capable of. So your self-esteem is going to get kicked down, and anxiety, trying to anticipate everything that could potentially go wrong every day, or ruminating on all the things that you did that you really wish you hadn't, without realizing that it's actually that amazing dyslexic brain that is popping up all these different ideas, sometimes in a very visual way. We are hardwired to problem solve, and that's what we want to do. We want to understand everything. So when a kid goes and asks, why do you want me to do such and such? And they're greeted with, because I told you to, just get on with it. That's denying them what they intrinsically are as a person. I want to find out. I want to find out what's going on. There's the goal. I want to know how to get there. So they keep trying to find ways to make sense of the world. And if you're constantly told, I'm not going to tell you, or there are no answers, you start blaming yourself. The other thing is that it uses a phenomenal amount of energy to process information in a neurodiverse way, far more than a linear way. So consequently, if you're using 4 times more energy and you've got more things going on, it becomes more frequent, it becomes more intense, it becomes more depleting, to the point where you think, well, there must be something wrong with me. You hive off a part of yourself, you look at the others and think, well, if I copy that, maybe then I'll be normal, maybe then I'll be happy. And in so doing, you build up a mask that covers who you actually are. And so many, I cannot tell you how many wonderful clients are charismatic, intelligent, be able to talk about things, funny. They are magnificent human beings who actually think there's something wrong with them. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with them. They do not need to be fixed. What they do need to do is understand why they think in a certain way, why they process information in a certain way, and how magnificent it is.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Pennie. And I'm sure it's a huge privilege for you to be hearing those stories, you know, from the people you work with. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
This is something I think probably all the panel members can ask, and including Trevor as well. And it's something, I'll start with you, Keith, because it was your quote and you said it again this evening, which I really liked when I was watching it. And you said, it took me a long time before I was able to say I'm dyslexic and I need help. So my question would be, what do you, Keith, and what do other panel members think can be done to help people to feel comfortable about asking this question in the knowledge that they will be supported? So start with you.
Okay, well, my experience, I'm really open now that I'm dyslexic. I mean, I go into a classroom, say I'm working with a dyslexic child, the first thing I will say is, congratulations, you're dyslexic, so am I. Only the best people are dyslexic. So getting it out there, having people embrace, you know, and say, look, I'm dyslexic, you know, because I know in schools, certain departments anyway, will have dyslexic teachers, because especially with maybe in music, drama, in the technical departments, because these are all skills that dyslexics have. But we have to be able to put a hand up and say, I'm dyslexic. I mean, I've known teachers, I've asked teachers, oh, would you mind maybe talking with, you know, somebody about dyslexia? And they're like, no, I don't want to talk about it. They try and hide it. So we need people to be open about their dyslexia. One of the ways to do that is possibly, we really need to change the way that the children are educated. The education system needs to change. As Amanda said, it's for non-neurodivergent children, it's for the normal, shall we say, whereas if we teach in a neurodivergent way that's beneficial to neurodivergent people, you're not you're not going to hinder non-neurodivergent children. In fact, you're probably going to help more of them than we'd understand, and also it's going to stop the destruction of children's self-esteem.
Yeah. Thank you, Keith. Absolutely. You know, and as we know, you know, what if there is an inclusive environment and dyslexia-friendly environment, that is going to be more accessible for everyone and more nurturing for every child as well. So that's so important. Jen, can I ask you the same question? You know, so what do you think can be done to enable people to feel comfortable about asking the question that Keith asks? You know, I'm dyslexic and I need help.
It's so hard, I think, because you're nervous and stressed with the dyslexia and you don't have confidence. It is really hard to conjure up that confidence to ask for the help that you might need. But I suppose ideally the education system would change and everyone would understand there's just different types of brains. It's not a big deal. If it's not such a big deal, it wouldn't be a big deal saying, hey, I've got dyslexia and can I get a bit of help, or I'll need this particular kind of help. But wouldn't to answer that and figure out what this in school. And yeah, if all teachers were aware of what dyslexia was, and when I was at school teachers didn't believe in it, that was really challenging. So making sure all the teachers were at least aware of dyslexia and had a little bit of training, a bit of background knowledge, and everyone knew about Dyslexia Scotland or the equivalent and had a place to go for help, that would really help. But yeah, difficult one, because it's easier when you've got a bit of confidence to put your hands up and say that you have this problem, which isn't really a problem, but feels like one. Yeah, it's hard. But yeah, finding your strengths and getting stronger in yourself if you possibly can. Find people to surround yourself with, and yeah, get help.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. And there are some really exciting programs. There's one called Mission Dyslexia and Mission Superheroes, where dyslexia champions are actually, you know, able to be very proud and to talk about their dyslexia. And I think, you know, there are some very good examples where that is happening. But as you say, it is about getting the confidence to do that, and that's not easy when you don't feel that you're being supported. So I think it's a bit of a vicious circle. But there are so many programs which we will send links to, which I think will help. And I do think that this documentary will start generating debate as well. So thank you both for those. Amanda, and I'll start with Amanda. Amanda, how would you answer that question, that same question?
I think we've got to flip the narrative, and you know, we've got children growing up today where we are talking about dyslexia, we're talking about what you can become and who you can be. And I think having people stand up and say, these are my experiences and this is me, and having adults from all different parts of society saying, this is me and this is what I can do, and telling your story. So that's why this is really important for people to tell their story. Says to children growing up that you can be what you want to be. And you can be what you want to be because you can see people who are like me and they're successful in all parts of life. So I think having role models and people standing up gives a narrative which then says to that child and young person, this is me and I'm not defined, this is part of me and this is who I am, and gets them to practice that narrative earlier rather than feeling apologetic. And I think that's the important thing, that when you want to say, I'm dyslexic and I'm proud of who I am, and you hear that from other people, then you can emulate that in yourself. And I think that's we need to flip the narrative, we really do. And I think for schools, we need to get them, you know, teachers need to be trained, but we need to have I think a friend of mine uses the phrase, an anticipatory welcome. We know in every school there will be children who will be dyslexic. We know it. It's not a surprise. It's, you know, we're not just suddenly imagining this. So for every child coming into school, we need an anticipatory welcome, and we need to be proactively welcoming them in and looking and supporting every child. And then that child can stand up from the age of 4, 5, 6, whatever age it is, and said, I'm dyslexic. And the other children go, wow, tell me about that. And then they'll feel proud. But schools have to make an anticipatory welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, were you going to say something else there, Amanda? No, thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. And we have a book called Dyslexia and Us, and there are a number of different stories from over 100 people in that book, and there is a huge contrast between the stories from some of the younger children in the schools who are talking about how they're so proud to be dyslexic and how their friends want to be dyslexic too, which is a fantastic sort of place to be. And it's a bit like Keith saying, your congratulations, you're dyslexic. But yeah, that story is so varied for so many people, and that's where we want to get to. Pennie, you see so many people in your role.
Yeah.
So what do you think should be done to answer Keith's question?
Where do I start? Well, we always start with the client, obviously, the person. And I'm always shocked by how little they understand about themselves. And we try and communicate in this clumsy vocabulary of words, but there's so much else that's going on that dyslexic people intuitively plug into. So they're ultra sensitive, their senses are very acute. They're often criticized for being, they overreact to things, whatever. Great, yeah, okay, you do. So how do you look after yourself? How do you make sure the environment that you go into nurtures you rather than overstimulating you so that you become anxious or depressed or frightened? Knowing that you can feel all the feels and still function as long as you can anticipate and be proactive. I'm not a teacher, not in this sense of being a teacher. However, what we do is model being positive dyslexia role models who are not ashamed to say, I've lost my train of thinking because there's so much in my head at the moment. I've gone off to the outer universe and now I've come back and I've got all these ideas. Now, what was it we were talking about? If the person can explain what's going on, as an example, husband and wife, he doesn't understand why she can't remember the road names. Then she starts explaining that she can see every house on the road in the sat-nav in her head, where the large tree is, where that big building is. And this is what she's processing all the time. And the husband looked at her and thought, my goodness, you've got all this going on? Yeah. Not only have I got it going on, it's moving, it's in color, I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it. This is what the dyslexic mind is like, the neurodiverse mind is like, but people don't understand it. So I want to encourage inquiry, interest, emotional intelligence. Don't push away what you don't understand, ask questions. The person then can explain what's going on for them, because we expect to be able to do what we do with our magnificent minds and do what all the linear people do and not have an energy sap from it, not to feel depleted in some way. But they can't do what we do, but they don't know what we do unless we know and can tell them and can show it. So work to the strengths always, look for the strengths always, whether it's education, the workplace, and know that a manager can make or break someone's soul, their life, and a teacher can do the same. They put themselves back together, but wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to have that job ever? My job would be over, that these young people come through from the family of origin with their teachers, knowing that there are some things they may find challenging. Can I have a hand with this? But there are other things I'm magnificent at. And yeah, I'll help you as well. What a better world that would be.
Yeah, that's so true, Pennie. And we're actually, Dyslexia Scotland's launching our strategic plan tomorrow. And that's about a journey towards dyslexia-friendly Scotland. And one of the things within that is about asking change makers to help us. So those change makers are the parents, the teachers, the managers in the workplace, people who are providing services and so on, people like yourselves. So, you know, I think we will be asking all the change makers in this room as well to kind of be helping us with that journey. And this documentary is so important as in generating that debate. Trevor, are there any things you want to add to that particular question about, you know, how do you, or what helps you to be able to ask that question and to say I'm dyslexic and I need help?
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do, to ask for help anyway, of anybody. So asking help for something that you're trying to hide is very difficult to do. So I just looked at the chat there, just have a wee skim through, because I couldn't do it when I was doing stuff. And someone said, Trev, how important do you think the understanding and support of peers is to your mental health? So that's everything to me. I think since engaging with dyslexia, speaking to other dyslexia people, speaking to Dyslexic Scotland, speaking to professionals like Pennie and Amanda, I think it's so important to get insights and gather as much information as you can. It's a personal journey. Mine's been 20 years so far. So speaking to other people is unbelievable. I mean, we know Paul McNeill through working with, or people don't know, Paul McNeill works with Dyslexia Scotland, he's an ambassador, and he spoke to me. I've been hiding it my whole career, and I was talking to him, and he never put me under any pressure, but I've told him I was dyslexic because he would tell everybody. He would walk by the corridors, I'm dyslexic. And I told him, and then he says, you need to tell people. And I was like, no way, man, you're mental. And then eventually he goes, I'll give you 2 weeks and you've got to tell someone. And I was like, I was terrified, man, I was terrified. And then he came back and said it was good. But then I started talking to more people. I went along to Dyslexia Scotland open day, you know, it was really, for me, it was sharing my story. So getting it out of my head and understanding, Pennie, the dragons, what are lurking about inside me, you know, and how to deal with them. And even doing this documentary has been really cathartic over the last couple of years. I said before we come on, it was like doing a degree in dyslexia and mental health, and it's still going. But I think some things that came out to me through interviewing everybody is we need to speak about it. We have to say it out loud. We need to talk about the narrative, or your own narrative, and where you are with it, your journey. Stuff that really popped out to me was equity over diversity. Signposting people to the right information for help, telling the story. And for me, a really massive thing here, I suppose, is policy change. You know, I was really digging deep and thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this documentary? It's policy change. We need change. We need movement, and we need change. We need people to engage with it. And I think I touched on this at the beginning of the documentary. There's so many people. I've said it to everybody I've been interviewing, said, like, you know, how hard is it at work with your dyslexia? How hard is it at school with your dyslexia? Yeah, it's really, really tough. But, you know, it's okay, but I'll manage, you know. You don't manage, you only manage to a certain point. And I think Amanda was talking about it. Everybody's touched on this, is the drip, drip, drip in the bucket, you know, and then suddenly that day happens where you just, you know, probably I have one of them days every month, if not week, where I lie down and go, woof, I can't cope. I wake up in the morning. When I wake up and just get out of bed, I go, I'm dyslexic. Wow, what's going on? I remember it every morning. It pops into my head every single day, reminds me every single day. So for me, it's telling the story, keeping the narrative, and understanding the nuances of that story, with professional people helping us tell the story, because it is tough. It's not easy. I'm not accepting this, that it's easy. It's not easy. So yeah, that's but yeah, the biggest thing for me was talking to people, you know, even talking to my mum about it when I discovered and stuff. And she was in complete, well, not complete denial, but a little bit of denial, because she knew how hard it was when I was younger, but I wasn't diagnosed. I think she's guilty of feeling a lot of guilt for that. So one thing I've done is I've done loads of self-therapy. I accessed mental health services when I changed my job, because I wasn't happy with my job when I was an aircraft engineer when I was 26. I went back to art school and I actually got a decent counsellor after my line manager told me, take a week off work, Trev, pull your socks up, stop moaning about stuff. When I told him I was finding the workload really hard. So I think journey counsellors is great. I think every dyslexic who has been undiagnosed and not diagnosed and went through should look at some form of counselling. It's just great. I love it.
Thank you very much, Trevor. And Trevor, you in terms of asking for help at the beginning of the session, you said you didn't know what your last documentary was going to be about. Yeah. So there's a suggestion in the chat. Perhaps your last documentary should be called Dyslexia, Say It Out Loud. So that's a great suggestion from Sharon there.
Yeah. I love that. I thought about the beginning of the first one to use the film Spartacus, you know, where people start standing up all around the world saying, I'm dyslexic. No, I'm dyslexic. I'm dyslexic. I'm dyslexic. We do the whole Spartacus thing. I think that'd be really cool. Definitely. Can't agree more.
Well, look forward to that one, Trevor. Thank you. Yeah. I know there's lots of stuff in the chat, and you know, I think Lena has said she can do a summary of the chat if we need it. I've got a few more questions for the panel members, if that's okay. Amanda spoke at the end of the film about society needing to be more supportive. So, you know, you haven't seen this part, but towards the end of the film, there's a lot of very practical suggestions and ideas, which is I think really kind of finishes off the documentary really helpfully. So Amanda says, society needs to be more supportive and to harness talent, praise it, ensure well-being and optimize productivity in the workplace, at school, everywhere. So can Amanda and other panel members give some examples of where this has happened, either in your schools, your workplace, or other settings where, you know, you have been praised, your talent has been harnessed, you've then as a result felt, you know, your well-being has been affected by that, and that has really increased your productivity. So Amanda, you maybe want to start with that question because it was your words that we used.
I'll try and think about it. Okay, so I'll give some examples in the workplace, because I think sometimes things are starting to happen there in some ways. One is by having alternative ways of applying for jobs. And in some places that is happening, where they're not just saying take a CV and criticize people with spelling errors on it, but actually finding different ways for people to apply, to open the door to get into jobs. That's the first thing. So I'm seeing that happening in some places. We're talking to an organization today that's changing the way they're recruiting. They're talking to people. They're allowing a conversation to happen. They're allowing people to present their skills in a video, or all different ways, rather than actually the CV. And the CV was invented by Leonardo da Vinci. It's time for a change, okay? I think in the workplace, and then where it's successful in the workplace for somebody who's dyslexic is getting those productivity tools. And I think that's a different language. I said productivity and I meant it, because it's about how do we get you to be your best self in work? And that then isn't about adjustments, it's about optimizing me to be my best. And in some workplaces now, we're really seeing people shown technology, spell checkers, grammar checkers from day one. They're not having to fight for it. They're not having to prove something to somebody to get it. And where I'm seeing that happening, that's making a big difference. You're not having to battle. You're not having to say, you can choose to say I'm dyslexic, or you can wait and decide when you want to say you're dyslexic, but it's your choice. And those are the places where I think it's starting to happen in workplaces, but we've got a way to go. We really do. But it should be, anywhere you go, you should be able to show your way of your talents for that job. And it shouldn't be those who write a good CV get a job and those who can't don't. That doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Amanda, there's some really good practice out there, but it needs to be shared more widely, and it needs to be more consistent.
It does.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. Pennie, have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, it's not my area of expertise, so thank God Amanda is here and talking about it. What I've observed is that as people move up, they tend to forget what the struggle was like as they were moving up. So if we could have a bit of top-down empathy, I'm thinking specifically about architecture and medicine at the moment, or don't go into architecture if you can't take the pressure. But actually what you're doing is losing a lot of good people on the way. There was something else that flew out of my mind, which had something to do with the financial collapse in 2008, which is that people were suddenly put into jobs that covered all areas, from administration to the things they were good at, and taken off the things that they were really good at, and spending 90% of the time worrying about doing something that they weren't very good at. We need to change that approach in the workplace, and that those that want to be doing the nitty-gritty of things, great, but those who can work with people, communicate with people, be orators, communicators, need to be allowed to do that. But for me, it always comes back to know thyself. If you've hived off a part of yourself that you are denying, how can you be authentic with anyone else? Know yourself, then you can articulate what your needs are. But if you don't know what your needs are, how can you get them sorted?
Very wise words, Pennie, and I think it is so important, and that's where a dyslexia assessment is such an important start to that journey, isn't it? Beginning to understanding, but yeah, and then really exploring that further. Thank you. Jennifer, is this something that chimes with you? Not, I don't mean to make a pun there, but in terms of your musical career, you know, that's being praised and having that sense of well-being, has that been something that's helped you with your productivity and it spurred you on?
Massively. Oh, it's transformed me. I'm so grateful to have found what I'm good at and to be in a profession that actually can give me some recognition and appreciation for what I'm good at. It's amazing. I can now go on a stage to hundreds of people and they like what I do as opposed to criticize what I'm doing. It's an incredible turnaround for me. It's quite bizarre to think about. Yeah, it means everything to me. And it's really helped my mental health and my confidence and my general productivity and inspiration. I feel much more inspired and excited by my possibilities and life ahead of me. It's amazing just finding what you're good at and then surrounding yourself with people that can see what's good about you and encourage you to do what you're good at. Yeah, I'm a very different person. I was such a shy little girl at school, just hid away at the back of the class, and now I'm able to stand on stage and sing my own songs. It goes to show that things can change, and even with a really hard start, you can get to a better place. So I hope I can offer a little bit of inspiration and encouragement and hope. Yeah.
Absolutely, Jennifer. And for those of you people who are at the Members' Day just before lockdown, I think, or 6 months before lockdown, when you were playing and performing and talking about your dyslexia, that was just so inspiring to so many people. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. Keith, is there anything that you would add to that? Obviously, you're a PSA and you're working with young people all the time, so I'm sure that you must be using these techniques yourself to...
Yeah, I mean, being asked to actually speak with a lot of young people that maybe have just had a confirmation of dyslexia, so that sort of spurs me on, because, you know, it's like, well, here I'm an adult, school wasn't good for me, I'm back in the school environment. Don't get me wrong, I still have flashbacks sometimes when I'm working. Maybe sitting outside the head's office to speak to her about possibly a child or something like that. Sometimes, I'll get a wee flashback of the 10-year-old or whatever outside the head's office, about to get shouted at for whatever reason. But I find that even just talking and opening up, saying, look, I'm dyslexic, I understand what's going on. A lot of children are like, my God, there's an adult within the school that actually understands me. It's like, I remember watching the documentary about the school, I think it was Manchester, Channel 4, when the head teacher actually opened up to that wee first year boy, and just the look on his face, my God, you're a head teacher and you're dyslexic the same as me. So that's what I was saying earlier about we need to be more open, especially in the teaching profession, because you are going to get children saying, well, there's a teacher who's teaching me, in school. So that's something I could aspire to. So, it's giving them hope as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that is so important, isn't it? I think teachers who are prepared to talk about their own learning differences is such a powerful, and that clip you talk about with Mr. Povey, I think was very, very widely shared, and very, very important, I think. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of these really kind of helpful sort of, I suppose, kind of parts of your life and in your professional kind of work that you're doing. I think that we're getting some really interesting responses in the chat, I think because of the numbers of people here tonight, we're not going to be answering all the questions, but we will try and do a summary. And I think there's a few people who've been asking questions about how we contact Trevor and so on. So we can actually we'll say a little bit about that in the summary before we close. I think Trevor's going to talk a bit about the next steps for the film and for anyone that wants to get in touch. We've got a couple more questions, if that's okay, from the panel, if you're not exhausted from all these questions. One of the quotes I really liked from Amanda that everyone heard tonight was about life sentences that individuals or others give to themselves or others, and that you need to break away from these life sentences. So the question related to that would be, what suggestions do panel members have about strategies to help people rewrite the life sentences that they've given themselves? I think we've heard some of those in the answers tonight, but is there anything that, starting with Amanda, are there any examples of ways in which people have rewritten their life sentences? Because they can be so powerful.
Yeah, and life sentences are things that people have said to you at some point in time that become a narrative in your head that you believe, and I give an example. I don't know if Trevor's got it in the film or not, but I remember years and years ago, well, many years ago, I was in school. That was a long time ago, and I was doing physics, and I never understood physics, and I couldn't understand. We were doing wave formations, and I couldn't understand what it was about, and I wanted to be a doctor, and I needed physics, and I put my hand up in class, and I said to the teacher, I don't understand this. And she said to me, don't be stupid, sit down. Didn't explain it, just said, don't be stupid, right? So that wasn't helpful. I went away and thought I'd stored that. I gave up physics as soon as I could. And then I did other subjects. And when my daughter was 15, 16, she was doing wave formation for homework. And she said, Mum, can you help me? And I went, no, I don't know wave formation. I thought, that's ridiculous. I'm a doctor. I became a doctor. We got the books out and we worked it out together. And that struck me on that night, how life sentences can stay with you for such a long time. I remember the teacher, I remember her name, I remember where I was sitting, I remember the day, right? So sometimes those things you have to rewrite the narrative and say, is it true now? Is it really true? can I change that story? You know, when people say you can't sing, don't sing in front of us, or you don't do maths, or you can't read and just say, is that actually true? You know, is that still true? And challenge those life sentences. And when you do that, that's very freeing. You know, you're not tied by that sentence as being in your head for many, many years. And sometimes you don't even know they're there till, like with my 16-year-old daughter, you know, that's what emerged. And I realized I had a life sentence. So I think challenging the words in your head that sometimes run through and saying that they can change is important for all of us.
Absolutely, because we're our own worst enemies, and yeah, those are things that we hold on to often. It's the negatives. So.
We believe it. You know, somebody's told they don't sing in front of other people. I remember having teachers in. I asked some people when I was training once. So what are your life sentences? They said, well, me and my sisters were told we should never sing because we've got terrible voices. And they never sang. They didn't sing in the shower. They didn't sing, you know, and that was crazy. And I said, do you like singing? I don't know, because I've stopped singing. And you just go, that is amazing, isn't it? In fact, that somebody said, none of you sing as well. You know, that's a family life sentence. That's not even a person's life sentence. So yeah, I think we can challenge that. And I think it's the power of those words that can be so fixing, can't they, really? When somebody says that to you, they stay with you.
And sometimes, and you do hear this a lot, I hear a lot in this job, you know, that people, they will fight against that thing that they were told at school. You know, that becomes the thing that actually forms their resilience and really helps them to sort of really, because they actually think, well, actually, no, that's not true, and how dare you say that? So I think in some ways that can actually be a trigger in a positive way, but yeah, it will stick with you, and it's trying to rewrite that. Absolutely. Pennie, you must experience that a lot in your career.
Yeah, and you know, lots of flashbacks coming here. I'm very struck by what we're talking about, because the sentence is from someone else, but we believe it. So it's challenging that. I left school at 15 with no qualifications whatsoever, and I was told that I was a waste of space and I'd never do anything with my life. I went into the performing arts, like Jen, had a very satisfying life, but it wasn't until I hit my 40s that I thought, do you know what, I want to tackle that academic dragon, because I'm so frightened of it. You'd be sitting talking to people and they'd say they'd done this, they got that qualification. I had nothing other than what I'd done with my life. You know, only a good career, 2 children and running businesses and all that, completely forgotten. When I got the special dispensation to take my master's, I came top. And that was when I thought, how the heck does that happen, that a child of 15, 16 can be told they're worthless and spend the next decades believing that? And then all of a sudden, through hard work, it wasn't easy at all, find that they could have excelled in whatever area they wanted. I could have done anything if someone had been able to say to me, I believe in you, I think you can do this. What can I do to help? Don't believe what people say. Trust, we have incredible gut reactions, incredible intuition. You believe you can, get on and do it. Find a way. Yeah, we have to go over and over and over and do things again and again, but boy, do we know it at the end of it. Believe in yourself. Try it.
Thank you, Pennie. Keith, is there something that you would, do you help others to rewrite their life sentence? Is there a life sentence that you've rewritten?
Well, first thing I will say to young people, you know, you'll get them, oh, I'm thick. It's like, there's no such thing as thick, dumb, or anything like that. It's just you learn in a different way at your own pace, and it will come good. I say to young people as well, okay, school, you might not like school, you find school difficult. As soon as you leave school, that's when you're going to find your way.
Yeah.
Because you're not having to sit there with standardized testing and things like that. You can be whatever you want to be. I mean, you're going back to a life sentence. I mean, I suppose I've given myself a life sentence. I have tried to break it about going to university. I've thought about, I even got as far as applying for the Open University, but there's always that little voice in my head from the teachers telling me I was thick, no good. So Pennie, congratulations on distinction and a master's. Fantastic. You know, maybe one day I will go and do a degree so I could maybe become a teacher. And then I could try and change the way other teachers teach from the inside. Because even in the position that I'm in as a PSA, because I feel because I don't have that degree, teachers look down on me and they don't accept that I have life experience in what these children are facing. So a lot of the information I'm giving will actually help them, but because I don't have that piece of paper saying, you know, congratulations, you're actually clever, I feel they look down on me.
Well, Keith, there's lots of people clapping in the audience, I think, and really just, you know, sort of rooting for you, because you can do it. We know you can, and you know, it's incredible what you've done to date. So I'm sure you've got lots of allies and lots of clapping going on in the audience, and so we'll look out for that Open University degree which you're to get. So thank you for sharing that. Jennifer, what about you in terms of the life sentences? I think you've probably said it, you know, the songs you're writing are probably the rewriting of your life sentences.
Yeah, maybe it's like a process I'm going through. Yeah, like you were saying, proving yourself to all those teachers that told you that you were useless and weren't going to go anywhere. Yeah, I think I'm in the process of trying to rewrite it and find confidence in myself and really believe in myself. And yeah, singing my songs really helps. That's really therapeutic for me. Yes, yeah, finding my own way. Yeah, I'm now performing shows and doing shows at the Fringe, and I've just got a record deal. A little record label has signed us up and we're going to release an EP. So I feel like I'm getting there with rewriting it. I'm getting there, but I still definitely have all the same stuff of feeling like I'm stupid, and it's really hard to shake that stuff. So yeah, that lingers around, but just have to keep working on focusing on the strengths that you've got. Yeah, but that's very interesting about feeling like, I think I probably have ignored my academic side because I thought I'm really rubbish at this stuff, and I've clearly focused on performing and music. And yeah, it's an interesting point about, yeah, maybe one day I too will explore the academic side of things, but for now the music is feeling good.
Well, to get a record deal at this time of the lockdown is just phenomenal. So
I can't believe it. I can't believe it, Cathy.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So can't wait to hear your songs on that record label. We'll be looking out for them. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing these really personal stories. I'm just yeah, it's so it's such an honor to hear all of these really emotional and inspirational messages that you're all giving. So thank you. I'm going to hand over to Trevor now, because I think we've just got 5 minutes left. And Trevor, I know you're keen to talk about next steps. People are asking how to access the documentary, what are the next steps, and would you really like to just hand over to you and before we say thank you to everyone for your input this evening, your contributions.
Yeah, thanks, Cathy. Thanks everybody actually for coming along tonight. When Dyslexia Scotland told me that we were doing the night and said, "Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, definitely." And by the way, a few years ago I would have went, "Yeah, no chance." But like 150 people coming in to see this tonight, it's obviously a big issue. There's big things going on. It's been amazing interviewing all the people on the panel. it's a real inspiration. And what I would say to any parents who I can probably see someone there today, I see here tonight, I got an email today from my son's school. He's 11. Charlie got really upset, blew up this week, said he doesn't want to go to school, you know, really, really stressed, will do anything not to go to school. And we spoke to the school and they've sent us a big letter back and they're trying to interact. It's not easy. You just have to keep going. So it's happening. You might think that I'm understanding what's going on and making this documentary and it's all great, but it's really hard still, even in my life with my children now. So I totally empathize with everybody who's going through this. And we all just want answers and they're hard to come by sometimes. So stick at it. Dyslexia Scotland are there for you. There's the people like Amanda and Pennie I follow on LinkedIn. They're always putting good information out, and so is Dyslexia Scotland. And there's amazing people like Keith and Jennifer sharing their information, or their stories, their stories. Jennifer's on Spotify, by the way. Look it up, you can find her. I think there's one track there and you can follow her as well. So that's a cool tip. Can I just say to Keith, you know, he's one of the most open people I've ever met. He's been one of the most inspirational interviews I've ever done with any dyslexic person. When we do the documentary later, there's more stuff to come from Keith. Keith, you're such a strong person. You're such an inspiration to me and everybody else. Can I say, when I first interviewed Keith, he wasn't doing his teaching and he wasn't a support teacher. And he was saying to me at the interview, I don't think I can do it. So, and by the way, now he looks like he's just right in it. And I'm sure if you want to do a degree, Keith, you will, and you'll definitely crack all of that. Right, so where was that? So the next part of the documentary, we're still finished editing it. I think we should be able to, and a lot of the panelists don't know as well, because I'm still to send emails out to people as well. So thanks for bearing with us. It's been really with this year and the stuff going on. It's been amazing. Amanda and Pennie let me come to their houses and film in their gardens and different places when all of this was going. The COVID stuff has been going on through the year, so it's been really difficult to do all this. So I really appreciate everybody's time for that. We should get somewhere in what, I mean, I'm terrible with months, right? So we're in March, right? So my birthday the weekend, actually, I nearly forgot. So March, so we've got April, May. I think by end of May, March, April, May, the lovely month of May going into spring, we'll probably get the film finished and we'll do a showing. I think we'll show it at different places around about Scotland. We're going to release it open source to education for Dyslexia Scotland, and we are going to submit it to film festivals. So that's what we're going to do with it. I think ultimately I want to get it in film festivals just because it's the narrative and the story. I think we've all watched really good documentaries and stuff which changed our lives. Well, I certainly have. So I think we want to get to that stage where it's somewhere where it's going to make an impact and change people's lives. And then hopefully, I was saying before the call, I don't know if I said it on the call, I was really challenging myself to think why I'm doing the storytelling, and basically it's to change policy. We need to change policy. We need to make steps forward. So I think that's where we're at. Regarding where we're going to go, I think Dyslexia Scotland are going to send out another email, and then we'll reevaluate where we are with this. There'll be stuff to contact me in that, and how we get contact through that. And there'll be times where we'll put maybe little trailers out and little clips, and maybe do this again, what we're doing now. And we'll get some feedback and how people can get involved as well. I'm thinking maybe people can maybe do a little clip on their phone and send it in to me, what will be part of the end of the documentary. And it's the I Spartacus idea, you know, and it might be like, you know, saying I'm dyslexic and mental health means to me, and then what it means to you. We might do something like that. So that's quite an exciting idea. But yeah, I think it's a really big journey, and it's through this, it showed me how important mental health is. It's, you know, and how prevalent it is with dyslexics. It's been a total eye-opener.